All right, it's Joe Bruin here with AllAccessEntertainment.com. We're here at ComiCON Foxwoods with none other than Simon Williamson. Thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Appreciate you taking the time and rewinding back a little bit. How did you first get into the world of entertainment, and what's the experience been like?
Well, the entertainment is sort of going back even further because I started doing little bits of theatre in Cardiff and then in London. And then I auditioned for a film called The Dark Crystal, made by Jim Henson. Got the job after exhaustive interviews and workshops, etc. And I worked on that for about 11 months. Then about 6 months later, they were casting Return of the Jedi, and I didn't need to audition. It was filmed at the same studio, Elstree Studios, north of London, that Dark Crystal was filmed in. And so it was a straight offer, do you want to be in the next Star Wars? And of course, everybody knew how big Star Wars was then, so I said, yes please. And it all sort of, that was the kind of main core of my puppeteering and physical mime performance-based work. I went back to puppeteering on Little Shop of Horrors, the movie, and some small, tiny Muppet parts in 3 Muppet movies. I did something similar for the BBC on an Alice in Wonderland, and then I went back to more orthodox forms of acting, you know, plays and television soaps and series. And yes, I haven't been doing that for a while. I sort of stopped acting, and I now work more on the script side, whether selling them for other people or trying to sell them for myself and getting movies made. I have a movie I want to direct. So yeah, that's how I got into it and out of it.
And how can fans follow you on social media? Do you have a website?
I do have a website. It's simonjwilliamson.co.uk. My Twitter handle is, if I can remember it, @RealMaxRebo. Facebook, I'm Simon J. Williamson, but I'm probably going to change the Facebook thing now so I can have a personal site and a site for Star Wars fans, because at the moment it's all sort of one, which is not wonderfully successful. Yeah.
And going a little deeper into Return of the Jedi, obviously, like you said, you were Max Rebo, the Max Rebo band. What did that entail? How long of a day to get in costume and the whole experience?
Well, Max, once you're in, it's a very tight costume, a very tight squeeze. They kind of don't want you going in and out of it too often, so you're in it for, you know, a few hours at a time. You know, maybe an hour would be the least, but you know, it takes so long to set up a shot, and then there's slight gaps between each individual take sometimes. You have to sort of stay in the costume and sweat, really. And I was sweating, you know, in kind of being blind.
Some of today's top in-demand artists, Nick Bradshaw, Ken Waxlight, Mike Hillary, John Tyler, Christopher, all here at ComiCON. Because remember, you can't have a ComiCON without great artists.
Sex appeal. So there you go. No, just joking aside. What were we talking about? We're talking about
Max Rebo, just the whole costume and the process.
No, it's very difficult to get inside, in and out of. So you stay in there for a long time, rather uncomfortably. With the Gamorrean guards, that was in a few sections, like 5 or 6 different sections. So you can take off the head finally and get a little bit more ventilation. So that's easier to do.
And what was your day like on the set of The Dark Crystal? You were there 11 months, like you said.
Yeah, well, it wasn't 11 months of shooting.
Okay.
It was 6 months of preparation, working with the costume designers and puppet builders to make things that actually not only looked good, but could be worked properly and be effective. So there was a bit of to and fro throughout that long 6 month period, and a great deal of physical training to be able to hold these crouched over positions. We even went on a special diet to eliminate certain things that would, you know, to do with blood and the thickness and thinness of the blood.
Right.
So we were kind of recommended certain diets. So, you know, they went into it a great deal of detail. I was thinking the other day that actually most of the work on Dark Crystal was done in the first kind of week or 2 of shooting.
Okay.
And we shot for, you know, nearly 6 months. We shot for 5 months. But most of the work was on the mixed mystics, and that's most of the work we rehearsed. And then the Garthim we'd do sort of sequences sporadically. So within that period after the first couple of months, there were days that were really quite quiet. and suddenly you wouldn't be, you'd be there at the beginning of the day, but you'd be hanging around,
Sure.
which is the story of filming anyway. You
Right.
do a lot of hanging around. Yeah.
And in closing, you had some small parts, as you said, in some Muppet movies. Any interaction with Jim Henson? Any memories of Jim?
Oh, Jim was just a lovely guy, and he kind of ran the set not like a general, because that's too authoritarian. He's kind of laid back, and he always had time for people and very generous to people. And the puppeteering I learned was from weekly workshops that Jim would run while we were rehearsing Dark Crystal.
Sure.
Just so he'd have backup people to play the smaller parts, which is what I did when the main Muppet performers were busy doing the main parts. So yeah.
Well, we thank you so much for taking the time today, Mr. Simon Williamson.
My pleasure.
And it's ComiCON here at Foxwoods for AllAccessEntertainment.com.